Okay, so let's unpack this.
Hmm.
I want you to picture a scene that, well, it's going to feel uncomfortably familiar to a lot of you listening.
Oh, yeah, we all know the scene.
Right. It is Tuesday night. It's raining a little bit outside. You are on the couch. You're wearing the sweatpants?
The bad ones.
Yeah, and I don't mean the cute matching athleisure set you wear to run errands. I mean the ones with the hole in the knee, the ones where the elastic gave up like 3 years ago.
Exactly.
The TV is on. Maybe you're watching a rerun you've seen 100 times just because it's easy. You're scrolling through emails on your phone,
Yeah.
checking the news, checking the weather.
Just kind of existing.
Right, can you look over at your partner, the person you stood in front of all your friends and family and promised to cherish?
Yeah.
The person you used to, drive 3 hours just to see for 20 minutes in the middle of the night.
The startup phase of the relationship.
Exactly. And the only thought in your head right now is, did we remember to start the dishwasher?
Yeah. It's the slow drift. It is the universal entropy of long-term relationships. It's quiet and it's subtle, but it's pervasive.
It really is. It is the drift from passionate lovers who just can't keep their hands off each other.
Your efficient roommates.
Efficient roommates. And that is exactly what we are deep diving into today.
Yeah.
Because we aren't just talking about, spicing things up with a few candles.
No, it's too superficial.
Right. We are looking at a stack of actual research, psychological studies on boredom and dopamine, and one very specific, very heavy artifact that claims to solve this exact problem.
And we really need to emphasize that it is a massive problem. I think we often dismiss boredom in relationships as just a natural side effect of stability.
I think it's just what happens.
Right. We think, oh, we're just settled. This is what marriage is. But the sources we're looking at today suggest that boredom is actually a much more active threat.
It's not passive.
Exactly. It isn't just the absence of excitement. It's the presence of decay. If you aren't growing, you're wilting.
Right. And the artifact at the center of our discussion today is a book that I think a lot of people might actually recognize. It's called 101 Nights of Great Sex by Laura Korn.
A classic in its own right.
It is. Now, before anyone pauses this or turns the volume down because they're listening in the car with their parents.
Fair warning.
Yeah. I want to be very clear about our mission statement for this deep dive.
Yes, let's set the stage properly. We need to frame this correctly for everyone listening.
We are not here to read you racy excerpts.
Yeah.
We aren't going to be reading erotica. We are analyzing the mechanics of this book.
The underlying engine.
Right, because when you look past the marketing, and to be fair, the marketing is very Cosmo.
Yeah.
Very glossy, very 90s.
Very much of its era.
Yeah. But there is a fascinating psychological engine under the hood of this thing. We're talking about hacking the brain's reward system, the neuroscience of anticipation, and a concept called structured intimacy.
Which sounds like a complete oxymoron to most people. Structured intimacy.
Sounds so clinical.
It does. We're raised on this diet of Hollywood romance where everything is supposed to be spontaneous. You get caught in the rain, you lock eyes, the music swells, and the passion just takes over.
Magic just happens.
Right. But the argument here, and what the science we have actually supports, is that relying on spontaneity in a long-term marriage is actually a recipe for that roommate syndrome you just described.
It fall apart.
Spontaneity is great for the first 6 months. It's terrible for the 20th year.
There is a quote from the author Laura Korn, right in the introduction of the 2020 updated edition we're looking at. And she is incredibly blunt about the state of modern relationships.
She doesn't hold back at all.
Not at all. She writes boring. Boo. She says in survey after survey, boring sex is the #1 complaint. Not bad sex, not dysfunction.
Just boring.
Just boring.
And she's absolutely right. The core tension we are going to explore today is this conflict between two fundamental human needs.
The push and pull.
Exactly. On one hand, you have the need for security. Knowing your partner is there, they are reliable, they are safe, they will pay the mortgage with you.
The comfort zone.
But on the other hand, you have the need for novelty, for mystery and thrill. Marriage gives you security in spades. But the very nature of that security often kills the mystery.
So let's look at the artifact itself, because this isn't your typical paperback self-help book.
Well, it's quite unique.
If you are holding the physical copy of it, it feels substantial. It's thick. It's heavy. It almost implies a curriculum. And it's constructed in a really strange way that actually dictates how you use it.
It is. It's designed as an experience or a physical object rather than just a text to be consumed. You don't just read it cover to cover.
You literally can't just flip through and read it, even if you wanted to. The pages are sealed.
Yes, physically sealed shut.
Sealed shut into envelopes inside the binding.
Which is the first psychological hack right there. It changes the book from information into a game.
Explain that a bit more. Why go to the trouble of printing a book where you have to physically tear pages out to read them? That's expensive to manufacture. There has to be a reason.
It's the no peeking rule. The book is divided into 2 sections, his and hers. The idea is that you rip out a page, a sealed envelope, and only the person planning the seduction knows what is going to happen.
So the other person is completely in the dark.
Completely in the dark.
So if I'm the one planning, I tear open a hers envelope, meaning I'm planning for her, or in the context of the book, I am the active agent planning a scenario. I read the instructions, I know the plan. You, my partner, know nothing.
Exactly. And think about what that does to the power dynamic and the decision-making fatigue in a normal relationship.
It flips it entirely.
It does. In a typical long-term relationship, decision-making is usually mutual, or it's just a chore. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want?
The endless loop.
Do you want to be intimate tonight? Maybe I'm tired. Let's see how we feel after the news. It's passive, it's democratic, but it's incredibly boring.
It's the menu approach. You're browsing options together, and usually you just pick the path of least resistance.
Yes. You're looking at a menu together, trying to find something you both agree on, and you usually settle for something neither of you hates, but neither of you loves either.
Right.
This book forces a shift from passive participation to active architecting. One person takes the reins. One person has the secret. And for the receiver, that creates a state of uncertainty. And as we will discuss when we get to the neuroscience, the brain absolutely loves uncertainty.
Laura Korn calls this her magic formula. She says anticipation plus creativity equals great sex. And in this 2020 edition, she's updated the anticipation part for the digital age.
Yes, ETs.
The ETs.
I thought this was a really smart adaptation because the original book came out in the 90s before smartphones dominated our entire lives. Back then, maybe you left a note on the fridge.
Right now, it's essentially a movie trailer.
It is. The instructions in the sealed envelope tell you to send a digital teaser, a text, an email, days before the actual event. It's not the event itself, it's a clue. It's a breadcrumb.
She calls it foreplay for the internet age. So walk me through the scenario. You're at work. It's a Tuesday afternoon. You're drowning in spreadsheets. Your boss is annoying you. You have a meeting in 10 minutes. And suddenly you get a ping on your phone.
And usually a ping on a Tuesday is just stress. It's a bill, it's a complaint, or it's a reminder to pick up milk.
Exactly.
But this time it's a message from your partner. But it isn't mundane. It's a hint. Maybe it's a photo of a location. Maybe it's a line from a song you both love. Or maybe it's a specific instruction like, be ready at 7 p.m. on Friday, wear the black dress, and don't ask questions.
And suddenly that Tuesday isn't so boring anymore.
Suddenly you've opened a loop in your brain. This is crucial. In psychology, we talk about open loops. The brain hates unsolved puzzles.
It wants to close the tab.
Exactly. It wants closure. When you get that clue, your brain starts working on it. What are they planning? What does this clue mean? You're thinking about your partner, but not as the roommate or the co-parent who forgot to take out the trash.
You're seeing them differently.
You are. You're thinking about them as a seducer, as someone with a secret, as someone with agency.
It seems like such a small thing. A sealed paper envelope and a text message. But the philosophy here is that the element of surprise is basically non-negotiable.
It connects directly to a concept in psychology called frustration attraction.
Frustration attraction, that sounds counterintuitive. I mean, we usually want to avoid frustration in our relationships, right? We want things to be easy, smooth, frictionless.
In logistics, yes. You want the mortgage to be paid easily. You want the chores done smoothly. But in desire, no. Friction is required for heat.
That makes sense.
Helen Fisher, the biological anthropologist, whose research is one of our key sources today, talks about this extensively. Adversity barriers in waiting actually heighten romantic passion.
Because you can't just have it on demand.
Right, when you can't have something immediately, or when there is a mystery you can't solve, yet your focus narrows on that object.
So the barrier here is completely artificial. It's a sealed paper envelope. Or it's the fact that I have to wait until Friday to find out what that text meant.
Precisely. It manufactures a barrier in a relationship where there usually are none. Think about it. In a marriage, you have total access to the other person. You know where they are, you know what they're thinking, you know what they look like in their pajamas, you know their social security number.
There's zero mystery.
There is no distance to cross. The book artificially injects stranger energy or barrier energy back into the dynamic. It forces you to wait, and waiting builds value.
Let's dive deeper into the brain science of this, because stranger energy sounds nice as a metaphor, but I really want to know what is physically, chemically happening in our heads.
The neuroscience is fascinating.
Yeah, we have these sources from Helen Fisher and Arthur Arion on the dopaminergic reward pathways. What is the actual chemistry of the sealed envelope?
This is where it gets really interesting, and we have to correct a common misconception about dopamine first. We often confuse pleasure with drive.
Right, people call it the pleasure chemical.
Exactly. We think dopamine is the chemical of enjoying something, like eating a cookie or having an orgasm. But dopamine is actually the chemical of wanting the cookie. It's the seeking system. It's the drive to go get it.
It's the chase.
It is the chase. Helen Fisher and her team put people who were intensely in love, that fresh, new, obsessive love, into fMRI scanners, and they found that romantic love activates the ventral tegmental area, or VTA, and the caudate nucleus.
These are the primitive areas.
Yes. These are the brain's primitive reward centers. It's the exact same system associated with addiction, with gambling, with intense focus. It is an energy system, not a relaxation system.
Gambling is a really good analogy here, right?
Yeah.
Because of the uncertainty element.
It's the perfect analogy. Think about a slot machine. If you pull a lever on a slot machine and you know for an absolute fact you will get $5 every single time,
You get bored.
you will get bored very quickly. You'll stop pulling. It becomes a wage, not a game. It becomes entirely predictable.
Right, it's just work at that point. You're just pulling a lever for a paycheck.
But if you pull the lever and you might get nothing, or you might get $1 million,
You're hooked.
you will keep pulling that lever until you starve. That is uncertain reward or prediction error. The brain spikes dopamine when the outcome is unknown.
And 101 Nights of Great Sex basically turns your partner into a slot machine.
In the best possible way, yes. When you see that sealed envelope or you get that ETs, you know something is coming, but you don't know what. That not knowing spikes dopamine much more effectively than a predictable reward.
So just scheduling sex doesn't work the same way.
No, if you just say, hey, let's have date night on Friday, that's nice. It's oxytocin, it's bonding, but it's not a dopamine spike.
It's comfortable, but it's not exciting.
Right, it's comfortable. But the sealed envelope, that's a dopamine spike. It triggers that seeking system. You become alert. You become focused. You start paying attention to your partner again because they have become a source of unpredictable data.
You're studying them.
You are literally looking at them differently because you're trying to figure out their secret.
This connects perfectly to another theory in our stack, self-expansion theory. This is from the research by Mies and colleagues. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so self-expansion theory posits that humans have a fundamental motivation to expand the self. We want to acquire new resources, new perspectives, new identities.
We want to grow.
Right. And when you first fall in love, the rate of self-expansion is massive.
As everything is new, you're learning their favorite music, their history, their weird habits. You are literally expanding your own world by merging with theirs.
Exactly. You are taking on parts of them. You start listening to jazz because they like jazz. You try sushi because they like sushi. You watch their favorite movies. But fast forward 5 years.
You know everything.
You know the stories, you know the music, you know exactly how they chew their food, you know their political opinions, you know how they drive. The expansion slows down.
We hit a plateau. We literally stop growing through the other person.
We do, and we often interpret this plateau as falling out of love or losing the spark. But really, it's just a lack of expansion. We aren't growing anymore.
We've completed the map, so to speak. We think we've explored the whole territory.
We think we have. And the study we have here shows that engaging in novel activities, not just pleasant ones, but new ones, is the strongest predictor of reignited sexual desire.
Which is exactly why dinner and a movie stops working.
Yes, dinner and a movie is pleasant. It's comfortable. It's a maintenance activity. It is not expansive. You aren't learning anything new about each other sitting in a dark theater watching someone else's story.
And looking at some of the scenarios in Laura Korn's book, and obviously without getting too explicit because we want to keep this clean, they are definitely designed to be expansive. There are scenarios involving public risque behavior or extensive role play or just really elaborate sensory setups.
She calls them seductions, but really they are novelty generators. They force you into situations you would never naturally drift into on your own. You mentioned the ingredients earlier. One scenario lists things like one naked man, One soft, wet tongue, milk and honey.
The velvet tongue. We'll come back to that one later. It's a classic.
But the main point is you don't stumble into that on a Tuesday night. You have to construct it. It forces novelty. And novelty mimics the early stages of dating. It tricks the brain into thinking, oh, I don't fully know this person yet. There is still more to discover. They are capable of surprising me.
So we have the method, the sealed envelopes,
Yeah.
and we have the neuroscience, dopamine, and self-expansion. But I want to talk about the enemy here again. We touched on it in the intro, but let's name it clearly. Routine.
The roommate syndrome.
The sources are pretty brutal about this. Laura Korn writes, love withers with predictability. And we have this study from lastminute.com regarding spontaneity.
This was a fascinating study. They had couples switch from their predictable routines to planned spontaneity.
Which again sounds like a total paradox. How can spontaneity be planned?
It does sound like a paradox, but it works. They found that couples who introduced these unexpected gestures, even if they were meticulously planned by one person in advance, saw a massive spike in intimacy. The study claims it quadrupled the number of couples having daily sex.
Quadrupled. That is a massive return on investment.
Quadrupled, just by breaking the pattern. And this brings us to the paradox of familiarity. This is a concept that Esther Perel touches on often, and it's deeply embedded in our sources.
Unpack that for us.
Evolutionary psychology suggests we have two opposing systems. We have attachment, which is mediated by oxytocin and vasopressin. This is the feeling of calm security cuddling. In Korean culture, they call this chung. It's profound, deep connection. It's what makes you good parents and good life partners. It's the feeling of home.
The warm, fuzzy feeling, the total safety.
Right, but then we have attraction. That's dopamine. That's excitement, anxiety risk. In Korean, this is sarang. The problem is modern marriage expects one person to provide both chung and sarang simultaneously.
Which is a tall order.
It is. We want our partner to be our safe harbor, our best friend, our nurse when we're sick.
Yeah.
A&D, the mysterious, ravishing stranger who sweeps us off our feet.
And those are biologically conflicting states, aren't they?
They are very difficult to maintain at the exact same time. Familiarity kills mystery. Mystery threatens security. If your partner is too mysterious, you get anxious. Are they cheating? Do they really love me? If they're too familiar, you get bored.
It's a tightrope walk. You literally can't be safe and dangerous at the same time.
Exactly. What this book attempts to do, and why I think it has sold over 4 million copies, is it attempts to bridge this gap. It keeps the safety of the relationship. You're doing this with your spouse in your house, you're safe. But it artificially injects that sarang, that dopamine-fueled mystery, via the sealed envelope.
It creates a safe container for risk.
Exactly. It's safe risk. It allows you to play with fire without burning the house down.
Now, the sources mention a really interesting gender difference regarding this novelty and spontaneity.
Yes. And we should be careful with generalizations, of course. But the data here, specifically from the lastminute.com study and Korn's own observations, suggests a strong trend. Men in these studies often reported enjoying total surprise, show up naked, that kind of thing, the visual shock.
Just zero warning. But women.
The sources suggest women often prefer planned spontaneity.
Meaning surprise me, but give me a heads up that I'm going to be surprised.
Right. Tell me to keep Friday night open, but don't tell me what we're doing. And there's a very good reason for this. It allows for mental preparation, the ETs we talked about earlier. That is specifically catering to this need. It allows the woman, or really whichever partner carries the mental load of the house, to build an erotic headspace.
Because if you just spring a complex seduction on someone who's been dealing with toddlers and emails and chores all day, their brain just isn't there.
Exactly. Their brain is in survival mode or management mode. You can't just flip a switch to erotic goddess mode in 5 seconds. It doesn't work that way biologically. The ETs, the warning, the anticipation, it acts as a bridge. It gives you permission to mentally clock out of the roommate role and clock into the lover role. It basically says at 7 p.m. you are off duty.
That transition is so hard for people. I think that's where most attempts at romance fail in long-term couples. You try to initiate, but the other person is just tired. They haven't had time to shift gears.
And that leads us perfectly to the emotional infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because Laura Korn is very clear throughout the book. This isn't just about friction. It's not just about the act of sex itself. She has this line, when a woman's heart melts, her legs follow.
Which is a very physiological way of saying emotional safety precedes physical desire.
Precisely. The source material breaks down these intimacy dimensions. We have the physical, sure. But we also have the heart dimension and the spiritual dimension. If the heart is closed, the body stays closed. You can't bypass the emotion to get to the sensation.
There was that anecdote in the PDF source about this stingy heart surveillance system. Did you catch that part?
I did. It's a brutal self-reflection exercise. She asks you to watch yourself for a week and basically notice when you are withholding affection, when you could say something nice or touch your partner's hand or compliment them, but you don't. You actively choose not to. You're being stingy with your heart.
That is painfully relatable, I think, for a lot of people. You get into a standoff. Well, they didn't ask me how my day was, so I'm not going to ask them. They didn't unload the dishwasher, so I'm not going to rub their back.
It's a ledger. We keep a silent ledger of grievances, and the heart dimension collapses. The book tries to bypass that standoff entirely. It basically functions as a permission slip.
A permission slip. How so?
Think about it. Why do couples stop trying new things? Why don't they share their fantasies with each other?
Fear of rejection.
Fear of rejection, fear of awkwardness, fear of judgment. What if I suggest this wild scenario like the milk and honey thing and they laugh at me? Or what if I try to be romantic and they just roll their eyes?
The response anticipation. We have a source on that from Bakshi and Ansari. We pre-calculate the rejection in our heads and decide it's just not worth the risk.
Right. We anticipate a negative response, so we don't act. We stay silent. But here is the genius of the book. The book suggested the wild idea, not you.
Oh, that is clever. So if we try it and it's weird or it doesn't work, we can just blame Laura Korn.
Exactly. You can say, oh, this author is crazy. Why does she have us do this? You are on the same team critiquing the book rather than one person putting their vulnerability on a line and being rejected by the other. It lowers the stakes of vulnerability. It functions as a neutral third party that takes the blame for the risk. It externalizes the wordness.
It really reminds me of the Gottman research on bids for connection.
Yes, John Gottman is the gold standard for relationship research. He talks about bids, small attempts to connect. Look at that bird. How was your day? Touch my hand. Successful couples turn toward these bids 86% of the time.
And couples who eventually divorce.
They only turn toward the bids 33% of the time.
Wow. That is a staggering difference.
It really is. Now view the weekly ritual of this book tearing open the envelope, planning the date, not as sex scheduling, but as a massive structured bid for connection.
It's a bid that is virtually impossible to miss.
Exactly. You can miss a comment about a bird outside. You can miss a sigh. You cannot miss a sealed physical envelope sitting on your pillow. It forces the turning toward. It creates a safe container where rejection is largely off the table because you both agreed to play the game in the first place. You signed the contract when you bought the book.
I want to play devil's advocate here, though. We're talking about structured games, sealed envelope schedules. There's a critique in the reviews we looked at that says this feels too scripted. It feels fake.
Is it authentic if I'm just following instructions?
Right. If I'm only massaging you because page 42 told me to get the oil, does it count? Is it real desire or is it just compliance?
This is a classic debate in psychology. Authentic desire versus structured behavior. But I would counter with the concept of fake it till you make it, or more clinically behavioral activation. Sometimes action must precede motivation.
Because we tend to wait to feel in the mood to act. We wait for lightning to strike.
And in a long-term relationship, the mood might only strike naturally once a month, or once a quarter. If you wait for lightning to strike, you'll be waiting a very long time. This approach flips it. You do the action, you get the oil, you light the candles, you put on the music, and the feelings follow the action.
It's exactly like going to the gym. You don't always want to go. You almost never want to go.
Yeah.
But once you are there and you start moving, you feel good. You get into it.
Exactly. And let's talk about the mental load aspect, too, because this answers the is it romantic question.
Oh, this is huge. The mental load usually falls disproportionately on one partner.
The book provides ingredients lists. It provides a script. It tells you exactly what to buy, what music to play. Some might say that's unromantic painting by numbers. I argue it's an incredible gift.
Because it completely eliminates the decision fatigue.
Completely. The mental load of planning romance usually falls on one person, or it just doesn't happen at all because it's too much work. Where should we go? What should we do? Do we have candles? This book outsources the planning to Laura Korn. One partner takes the burden of execution, but the creative burden is lifted.
And for the receiver, the fact that their partner went to the store, bought the specific massage oil, set up the room, that effort is the aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that the book told them to do it. They still did it. They took the time.
It says you are a priority. Laura Korn says 101 Nights eliminates the single biggest reason romance slips away, which is that most couples simply fail to make time for it. It's a prioritization engine. It forces you to carve out physical space in the calendar.
Which brings up the other barrier, time. The book suggests once a week. For a lot of busy couples with jobs and kids and commutes, that sounds completely daunting.
It does, and the author acknowledges that reality. She has this workaround where she says, if once a week doesn't fit, do it once a week for 2 years. Stretch it out. Don't make it a stressor.
Or the twice on Sunday concept. I found that really interesting.
I loved this. The idea is you clean the house, you get everything perfect, and then you quote-unquote mess it up. You have a lazy romantic morning, then you have lunch, read the papers, and then you mess it up again. You double down on the intimacy when you actually have the free time.
Just don't do it on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, she is very specific about that. Know your audience. Context matters. Don't try to be romantic when your partner is stressed about a deadline or watching their favorite team play.
There's also a mention of apps in the new edition. We live in a digital world now. Why not just use an app? There are plenty of intimacy apps. Why the bulky physical paper book?
The sources touch on this shift. There are apps, and Korn even has one, but there is a strong critique that digital efficiency actually kills the tactile romance. A notification on your phone is easily swiped away. It sits right next to your work email and your news alert about the economy.
It's just another pixel on a screen. It's part of the noise.
It's just another pixel. But a physical, thick, sealed envelope, that is an object. It occupies real physical space in the real world. It sits on the nightstand. It stares at you.
It's a totem.
It's a totem. And tearing paper, there is a sensory, physical experience there that swiping left just doesn't replicate. It feels like a commitment. You are breaking a seal. You are crossing a threshold. It separates the erotic world from the work world.
Let's broaden this out a bit. We've talked heavily about the mechanics, but there's a deeper philosophy here about what sex actually is in a long-term relationship. One of the sources, Transform Your Sex Life in 4 Days, makes a very clear distinction between release and re-radiating.
Yes. This is moving from the purely physical to the spiritual or aesthetic. Release is just biology. It's tension reduction. I'm stressed. I need to sleep. That's fine. It serves a purpose. It's hygiene. But it's not what keeps a marriage alive for 40 years.
Re-radiating implies something flows back out.
It implies deep connection. It implies making the bedroom a beautiful space. The aesthetic dimension. You aren't just having sex in the same bed you sleep and fold laundry in. You are transforming the space. Candles, music, lighting. It signals that this activity is special. It's a ritual, not a chore. It honors the relationship.
This brings us back to the velvet tongue. We teased it earlier. This was the seduction that apparently went completely viral, right?
Yes. Heather Locklear went on David Letterman, this was years ago, obviously, and talked about this specific seduction from the book, and Letterman was apparently blushing on national television.
What exactly was the seduction?
It's incredibly playful. It involves milk and honey.
Very messy.
Very messy. But that's exactly the point. It represents play. Adults forget how to play. We are so serious all the time. We have mortgages. We have high cholesterol. We have 401ks. The idea of covering your partner in sticky honey sounds ridiculous.
It sounds like a lot of cleanup.
It is a lot of cleanup. But it forces you out of your adult responsible brain and into a childlike sensory brain. The book is essentially a game for adults to rediscover playfulness. If you can't laugh while you are licking honey off your spouse, you are taking life way too seriously.
And that shared laughter, that shared ridiculousness, that creates a massive bond.
A huge bond. It's a shared secret. Remember the time we made a huge mess with the honey? That becomes part of your lore as a couple. It strengthens the U.S. against the world dynamic. It's an inside joke that only you two have.
I really like the comparison you made earlier about startup energy versus corporate energy.
It's the perfect metaphor for long-term love. In the beginning of a relationship, you are a startup. High energy, high risk, high innovation. You are trying to win the market, which is your partner. You stay up all night talking. You drive 3 hours just to see them for 20 minutes. You are constantly pivoting and trying new things to impress them.
Then you go public. You're married.
You become a corporation. You have efficiency. You have stability. You have quarterly projections like who is picking up the kids this week. But innovation dies. Corporations don't take risks. They protect the asset. They avoid disruption.
And this book is what? An R&D department?
Exactly. 101 Nights of Great Sex is an innovation lab for your relationship. It forces the corporation to act like a startup again. It injects risk and innovation back into the system.
Because if you don't innovate,
You go out of business.
Okay.
Or, in this relational case, you drift right back into the roommate syndrome. You become obsolete to each other.
So bring this all together. We started with the problem, the drift into boredom. We look at the solution, which is structured intimacy.
We saw that the structure doesn't actually kill the romance, it protects it. It creates the trellis that the rose can grow on. Without the trellis, the rose just lies in the mud.
I really like that image. And we learned that our brains are naturally wired to crave this. The dopamine, the uncertainty, the self-expansion. We aren't fighting our biology, we are hacking it. We're using the brain's own reward systems to reignite that desire.
And we learned that taking the mental load off your partner is honestly one of the sexiest things you can do.
Absolutely. Now, you don't necessarily need the book to apply the principle,
Yeah.
though the book certainly helps. The core principle is surprise plus anticipation plus dedicated time.
You can do that with a simple Post-it note. You can do that with a text message. You can do that by planning a date and just not telling them where you are going. But you have to do it. You have to be the active architect.
So here's the final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If your relationship was a movie, would you still be watching it?
That's a tough question for a lot of people.
Or did the plot start moving 3 years ago? Are the main characters just sitting around drinking tea and checking their emails?
If the audience has walked out because nothing is happening, maybe it's time to introduce a plot twist.
Maybe it's time to seal an envelope.
I think that's a perfect place to end our deep dive today.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.